Work begins in the dead of night for fishermen in the Azores. The archipelago belongs to Portugal and lies around 1,400 kilometers from mainland Europe, out in the North Atlantic. With live bait caught near the coast, the fishermen set off to catch tuna. But fishing quotas and falling prices are endangering their age-old business, and many have been forced to stop.
We're setting off again, hoping to find fish like any other day.
Maestro Eduino Quadros has 15 men on board. The group is worried. It's not clear how long they can continue before the fishing authority orders them to stop. He worries if he will ever be able to pay his crew.
The way we fish, it's hard to know how it will be. Sometimes a shoal turns up and we get enough fish to last the month. Other times we're out for 1, 2, even 3 weeks and don't find a single fish. It's very unpredictable.
As dawn breaks, the sense of anticipation grows. They have no technical equipment for locating the tuna. They scan the ocean's surface with binoculars for hours on end. There are more than 30 boats like the one owned by Maestro Eduino that sail around waters of the 9 major Azores islands. The competition is fierce due to the looming message, quota reached, no more fishing. Will they catch enough fish in time? When seagulls appear, catching fish on the surface of the water, the fishermen become alert. It's the sign they've been waiting for. Below, a school of tuna is chasing small fish, bringing both their prey and themselves to the surface. Now it's time to lure them in with the live bait. The boat emits jets of water, which excites the fish, causing them to go for the live bait.
He's taken the bait. Throw more.
Eduino Quadros is the brother of skipper Maestro Eduino and co-owner of the cutter. The fishermen of the Azores have been catching fish in this way for generations.
We've caught 2 or 3 tons, I reckon. But a good catch would be 12 to 15 tons.
They're constantly worried. Now, 80% of the quota for the paturo, the big-eye tuna, has already been reached, after just 3 weeks. They're almost at the end of the fishing season for this tuna species, and it's the one that brings in the most money. Traveling more miles and using more diesel, their search continues. Underwater, it's a whole different world, and one that diving instructor Stefan Erath has got to know well. The German shows his customers the best diving spots around the Azores, considered among the most important in Europe. The whale shark and manta rays are the standout stars among the many species that come here when the water gets warmer. They, in turn, draw more tuna, more divers, and more revenue all round.
It's my passion. I'm not doing it for money. I've been doing this job for 15 years now. I've done over 5,000 dives and every one is different. It never gets boring, and that's the beauty of this job. Then, on top of that, I get to work with people who share my hobby and who are on vacation. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't get any better than that.
Aus meiner Sicht gibt nichts Schöneres.
Tourism is a booming industry in the Azores. Stefan's diving school is one of 5 on the island of Santa Maria. The island boasts 2 diving paradises. Stefan lives here for 6 months of the year, during the diving season from mid-May to the end of October. His father gave him money to set up the diving school. Today, it's worth 3 times what it was at the start. A great investment, he acknowledges. His girlfriend, Alice Soccodato, is also here right now. A marine biologist from Italy, she's using her vacation to visit and help out. She works for the EMBRC in Paris, a European research network for marine biology that coordinates research worldwide. One issue is the fact that climate change and ocean warming are causing some marine species to arrive here earlier each year.
I have a little bit of time to work remotely, so I try to stay 2 months at least every season, and then we see how it evolves with the different engagements.
Right now, they're preparing for their next dive tomorrow.
Ich habe eine Ausbildung bei der Deutschen Telekom.
I trained with Deutsche Telekom in the IT sector.
Dann nach der Ausbildung gewechselt zu
After my training, I switched to Bosch security systems and was then an engineer for alarms.
Dann kam eins zum anderen, dass ich
But one thing led to another, and at some point I said, okay, I need to do something else.
auch auf der Welt.
I travelled the world a bit. I was a diving instructor in Asia, in Thailand and Bali. Then I went to Madeira. I never considered starting a business in Asia or in the Caribbean or America or wherever, because my family is firmly rooted in Germany. It's important to me to be close to them.
Fest verankert ist für mich auch wichtig.
In terms of diving, there's nowhere else in Europe like the Azores, with the rich diversity that it has,
Mit der Abwechslung von
from the
der
tiny sea slug to the whale shark.
zum Walhai. So tomorrow, second dive will be in Ambrosio. It's the very famous spot in Santa Maria. It's the one that most of the people come for. It's a spot where we usually see and dive with mobile arrays.
The next morning, they head out. Coming along today are divers from Switzerland, Spain, France, and Portugal. People come from all over, and in the high season, Stefan has 3 boats out every day, and his 4-legged friend Safira always joins the party. The Ambrosio diving site is popular. There are fixed time slots for visits to protect the area. Those who break the rules risk being caught by the marine police and fined. Alicia says a complete rethink is still needed.
We were able to get the interdiction of fishing on the spot for a diameter of 300 meters. So it's still not much in terms of ecological value. We don't see fishing boats next to the people who are diving. We also witnessed some mobulas with some hooks in the mouth or in the head. Of course, we can't say that they got it from here, but it's still a sign that there is this impact on these animals. Mobula tarapacana, it's a species that is endangered. There are data that shows that worldwide mobulas are losing their population. In the last 10-15 years, they lost more than 70% of their population. We should try to preserve them as much as possible.
The ocean is big, but really good diving spots are rare. So fisherman Maestra Eduino says they never fish near the diving spots to avoid conflict. Far away from the island of Santa Maria, they've come across a school of tuna. The fishermen don't agree with the idea of expanding the protected areas. They have 15 families to feed. Maestra Eduino says their fishing method, which has been used for generations, does not contribute to overfishing. In the waters of the Azores, tuna can only be fished with a rod and line. Nets are banned here. Rafaela Pestana, who works for the local fishing authority and monitors how the fishing is done, is also on board. She records everything. The data is needed to get the dolphin safe quality label issued by authorities in the Azores.
The fishery has the dolphin safe label. We've checked that they're fishing sustainably without harming dolphins, among other things. We ensure they're fishing ethically. This fishing is very sustainable. We also look at the protection of other species, like whales, sea turtles, and seabirds. When I came here, I had a completely different idea about fishermen. But today, I think their work is very important, especially rod and line fishing. The fishermen don't use nets that catch entire shoals.
The fishermen were happy to agree to the monitoring, but they feel betrayed by the fact that they're subject to the fishing quota, even though they work sustainably. Then comes the big shock, the message from the fishing authority. Please be advised that the big eye tuna quota has been reached. From midnight tonight, catching big eye tuna is banned. Although they'd been expecting the news, Maestro Eduino and his brother Paulo are still outraged.
It's so frustrating. We've been fishing less than a month and now have to stop.
The last few years have been very disappointing. It's very sad. The situation today is much worse than when I started.
We'll both have to quit if things go on like this. We've fished since we were kids. But when I think about what's going on now...
The sun is going down, so we'll have to head home. The trip is over, and big-eyed tuna fishing is done for this year.
On the way home, he insists on showing us who is really behind the overfishing, including far south of here in the Gulf of Guinea, off Africa's west coast.
I call that a crime. It is a crime. The purse seine nets should be abolished. They kill entire schools of fish, especially the way they do it today. They leave decoys on the surface of the water. The young fish seek shelter underneath, next to the shoal, to protect themselves from predators. But in the end, they too die in the nets. It's a murderous way of fishing. Many species will be wiped out if they don't ban it.
Purse seine nets can stretch for up to 2 kilometers, some reaching depths of several hundred meters. They can enclose entire schools of fish at medium depths. Environmental groups say the monitoring of these industrial fishing fleets is often inadequate.
Today, it's huge ships with large nets that are wiping out species. We should be putting an end to this murderous fishing, rather than letting pole and line fishing die out. We have one man, one fishing rod. It's only people who don't know what they're doing that would seek to ruin that. This process is harming our planet and the ocean.
Off the coast of West Africa, many fishing fleets succeed in evading all monitoring, partly because it's unclear who has jurisdiction. That has consequences for fishermen in the Azores, where the European Union has strict fishing quotas. Marine biodiversity also provides a living for Stefan Erat. It's something he has in common with the fishermen. His divers get to see an extra treat as they head to their next dive at Formijas, 20 nautical miles off the coast. Stefan Erat warns his customers not to touch any marine life. Still, they're entering a habitat where humans arguably have no business being. Stefan argues that tourism brings a lot of revenue to the islands. Tourists from all over the world come here to dive. Stefan says it's essential that this is preserved, and not just for the tourism industry, from which he earns good money. He says it would also be good for the fishermen.
I think there are alternatives that could benefit both the divers and the fishermen. Why not charge a marine park fee of 5 or 10 euros to dive at these sites, and then use the money to help finance marine police, to monitor these sites, and also to subsidize the fishermen to stay out of these areas? Schemes like that have worked in other parts of the world.
Since these resources are human heritage, and everybody already pays a lot of money, a lot of taxes, and this money should also supposed to go in the protection of our natural resources.
To unload his cargo, Maestro Eduino has to go to the nearby island of São Jorge. He says the fishermen are the victims of the Azores authorities' lack of planning. He's had to wait 2 days to unload. In that time, he's had to keep the engines running to keep the fish in the boat refrigerated. They're magnificent specimens, each 70 to 80 kilos, and highly sought after on international markets. They are ideal for sushi or as a steak in gourmet restaurants. They ought to be a safe bet. But the fishermen have to negotiate with a buyer who haggles over the price. In the end, they get 2 euros per kilo. The fish factory dictates the price. Maestro Eduino has no choice but to agree and is apoplectic.
There are countries that pay 10 or 50 times more for a fish like this than they give us. Why are they so miserly? They used to pay us 4 or 5 euros per kilo, even 6. Now they only give us 2 euros and refuse to pay more. I don't understand it.
And yet, the fishing authority had actually promised them a better deal. Fishing quotas would mean a smaller catch, but fishermen were assured they'd get higher prices for their fish.
But that did not happen. And not only that, the prices even dropped. What kind of government do we even have? Are they children ordering us around? No one can do anything except those who are in charge. That's what they're paid for.
The factory owner will sell his valuable fish to Spain. He won't tell us how much he'll get. Transport costs to the mainland have gone up, he says, and prices on the international market fluctuate. Low prices for prime fish could mean the end of the fleet. The factory owner understands this and says it's the European Union that needs to take action.
Brussels needs to see the situation differently. The island has 8,000 inhabitants. We're the largest employer in Azores, with 130 employees. Each one has a family to feed. If we cease to be an employer, we will have a major crisis on our island. If we no longer have a fleet tomorrow, we won't have a fishing industry either. The Azores are a small region with 9 main islands. Around 700 people work in the industry. And there are even more who work in the fishing fleet.
The Azores are home to around 240,000 people. The fishing industry provides 2,000 jobs, making it an important sector. Canned tuna is comprised of the smaller bonito tuna. These ones are from last year and have been kept frozen. The fishermen will have to wait a good 2 months before the bonito arrive in their waters. Will they still be fishing then? We ask the captain of another cutter whose catch is just being unloaded.
If things go on like this, we're on our way out. The fishing quota is too low, the fish are dirt cheap, and diesel far too expensive. It's bad, really bad. I can hardly look my crew in the eye anymore. It makes me sick. And I need to spend a fortune on repairs to the boat. 70, 80,000 euros just for maintenance.
If this was Spain or France, there'd be 1,000 boats here. But here there's just a few dozen of us.
Too few to be important. Their future looks bleak without large-scale change, say Maestro Eduino and his brother Paulo. They're returning to their home port on the island of Pico. Their crew members are seasonal workers from Portugal's former colonies. Very few locals are up for doing the job. Even though the two brothers will have no income for the next 2 months, they still have to pay the minimum wage, social security contributions, insurance, and food for their crew. Their father, who once also fished on this boat, predicted this would happen.
Before he died, he told us, sell the cutter before you lose it, along with your house and everything you own.
Maestro Eduino arrives with his 14-year-old son, Vicente. He also has another older son who left the island and works for an insurance company in northern Portugal.
I don't want my youngest son to be a fisherman either. He should go to university and find a good job. If he likes fishing, then he should do it for sport, but not as a profession. I don't want that for him.
Once I finish high school, I want to study electrical engineering in Lisbon.
It's a similar story in Paulo's family. They live in Santa Cruz das Ribeiras, a traditional fishing village in Pico.
We used to have 5 tuna boats here in the village, and all the crews were from here. Today, I'm the only one still fishing for tuna.
At the same time, the number of tourists visiting the Azores is growing. Apart from diving, the islands are popular with hikers too.
That's my granddaughter.
Paulo's only son is a math teacher on the main island of São Miguel. He comes to Pico regularly to visit his parents and see his daughter. He didn't want his father's job either. He believes the current focus on tourism alone is risky.
We're concentrating solely on this sector while greatly restricting others that also have potential. Fishing was once the island's engine of economic development. Many people earned a living from it, and families built their homes with the income. Today we're losing that, and I find that sad.
What's more, says Rodrigo, the tourists don't want to see empty villages and deserted streets either.
You could go to a museum where a video shows you what life was once like here. But today you can just watch that on YouTube. You don't have to fly to the middle of the Atlantic.
What future do the Azores have? Maestro Eduino fears it's unlikely to include tuna fishing.